Good afternoon, and welcome to the latest edition of the National Security Space Association's SpaceTime interview series. We're glad you could join us today. My name is Chris Williams, and I have the honor of serving as chair of the Mormon Center for Space Studies in the association. I wish to give a very hearty thank you to today's sponsor, Viasat. Viasat is a tremendous partner to the association. And to the men and women of Viasat, we thank you very much for your sponsorship and your solid support of the association. So thank you very much. Thanks also to those of you who attended our last two SpaceTime interviews. 1 week ago today, we held a classified conversation with Dr. Didi Kuo from the National Reconnaissance Office. And as many of you know, just 2 days ago, we held an interview with NSSA's own Mike Tierney and Todd Harrison on the fiscal year 2024 budget request for military space activities. I hope you found those events as enlightening as I did. Today, we are thrilled to have with us Col Richard Kniseley II. Rich, thanks so much for joining us today. Col Kniseley is the U.S. Space Force's Senior Materiel Leader, Commercial Space Office at Space Systems Command at LA Air Force Base in California. He leads a 90-person office that assesses, implements, integrates, and monitors commercial space capabilities for the Department of Defense. His office also executes over $1 billion in investments to address critical capability gaps for the warfighter. Col Kniseley entered active duty in 2000 as a graduate of the Air Force ROTC program at Colorado State University. During his distinguished career, he's served in a variety of acquisition positions, including program manager, flight test manager, flight commander, headquarters staff officer, field command staff officer, legislative liaison, and materiel leader. Quite a distinguished career, sir. A brief word about our format. Col Kniseley will provide some opening remarks, then we'll turn to Q&A. I'll begin the questioning, but we strongly encourage audience participation. So please enter any short questions you might have by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. I can't promise that we'll get through all of your questions in the allotted time of 60 minutes, but I'll do my best. Col Kniseley, thanks again for being with us today. Thank you for your continuing fine service to our great nation. And sir, the floor is yours.
Awesome, Chris. So thank you for having me. Good morning to everybody online. Chris, thank you very much for moderating this. It's much appreciated. Also like to send a special thank you to Matt McNitt, who usually puts on the logistics for these events, which is always a good deal of help. And also a special thank you to NSSA for being a great sponsor and a supporter of the Space Systems Command and the United States Space Force. As many of you know, we've really taken due diligence here at Space Systems Command to have more dialogue with industry to help them bring them along on the journey with us to have help them understand some of our problems and understand their approaches of how to get after those problems. And NSSA helped us sponsor a couple of those industry days last year that brought together the entire community, not just Space Systems Command, but the other field commands, the other agencies, as well as National Space Council, and just senior members of industry and the community. So thank you very much for that. I do appreciate all of you for attending virtually and taking time out of your busy schedules. But leveraging partnerships in industry to make deliberate investments to get after a game-changing capability for the warfighter is essential for where we're at in this day of the space age. And it's deeply vital in ensuring space superiority and national defense in the space domain to get after the threat. It's undeniable of how much the commercial space industry is booming right now. And we, the government, need to take it upon ourselves to, really take advantage of that new, innovative commercial capability and get it out to the warfighter as quickly as possible to provide that competitive edge for the warfighter against near-peer adversaries. And from my standpoint, the biggest edge that we have is unity of effort across all of the different agencies, as well as the partnership that we have with industry and our allies that are going to help us get after that threat. And in true Lieutenant General Gutlein fashion, I'll start everything off with talking about that threat. And really what you need to understand is that the SSC workforce comes to work every day focused on that threat. And it is a definite culture change that you could see even walking through the courtyard. You will see a number of banners talking about what the threat is doing and in different methods. Our SSE workforce is also receiving monthly threat intelligence briefings. And what they're doing is they're learning about the threat and taking those lessons learned and understanding how they can incorporate that into the programs that they're developing and fielding for the warfighter. And also, I'm sure many of you were at a space symposium last month and had the chance to hear our CSO, General Saltzman, speak. And he brought up how on the threat front, things just look drastically different compared to past generations. The US and our allied forces must now contend with space-enabled attack. Space is more congested and contested than at any point in our history. And the number of on-orbit systems today that our pacing challenge in China has launched over the past decade has reached exponential levels. Just in the past 8 years, they've added 556 satellites on their on-orbit presence. And a lot of those capabilities have to do with ISR. So with that challenge, it has taken upon Space Systems Command to adopt a new mindset in several areas to get after this challenge. Last month at Space Symposium, Lieutenant General Gutlein rebranded the Commercial Services Office that was started last year to the Commercial Space Office. And as Chris, as you mentioned, I'm the senior material leader over that office, and I'm proud to take on the challenge and excited to work with the workforce. And why we did that was we realized that commercial is much bigger than services. It encompasses end user items. It encompasses demonstrations with commercial technologies and also exploiting those technologies than previously intended. And we have to, in order to get those capabilities out there, we need to break down barriers to get innovation that industry is providing out to the warfighter. And there are many different ways to get those quick wins out there today. And this is all part of the bigger cultural shift that's going on within Space Systems Command and in the Space Force writ large. And in order to be successful, we really need to start migrating away from thinking that we have to build everything in-house. We need to shift to a mindset to start getting sufficient capability out there fast to the warfighter, and then also doing innovation in the background to be more responsive to the threat, even more proactive, even in more times proactive to the threat, to ensure that we're staying ahead of the challenge. And our PEOs come to work each day with that mindset to start moving away from building in-house to getting more after that buy before build mentality so that they can focus on what is inherently government to get out to the warfighter. And that really goes along with the SSE mantra that we've adopted, that we've been spreading: the exploit what you have, buy what you can, and build only what you must. And the Commercial Space Office is at the forefront of that buy before build mentality. Next, I'd just like to talk about a lot of what we've already been doing with commercial, because SSE is at the forefront of really getting after a lot of things commercial. I'm proud to have the Commercial SATCOM Office under my umbrella. The Commercial SATCOM Office, led by Ms. Claire Hopper, actually executes over $800 million per year on behalf of the services and the combatant commands, getting after their needs in the commercial SATCOM realm. Through the Assured Access to Space, we have actually procured over $1.9 billion in commercial launch services since 2020. And also for commercial space domain awareness, and that charge is led by Ms. Barbara Golf and Mr. F. Schnell. We actually procure and buy almost $21 million per year for commercial SDA capability. And those are just a few areas that we've been investing in commercial. Many of you have seen what we've been doing with the Unified Data Library as well as Warp Core. And those are key facets for what we're doing at commercially. But now that we've stood up the commercial space office, I'm excited to get after other mission areas that we'll go over later on in the program and start migrating to more hybrid space architectures. And our enablers are also kicking butt right now for Space Systems Command. Through the Space Enterprise Consortium, we've awarded over $3 billion over the first 5 years of the program across 103 projects. And over 75% of those projects have gone on to follow-on prototypes or have gone operational. And also, I'm proud to have the partnership with SpaceWorks under my umbrella, which is a partnership with AFWorks and AFRL. And since that started in 2019, they have awarded over $227 million across 160 companies, maturing many different mission areas and components, including capabilities such as a new capability like SAML. So going forward, I'm excited to have the SSC front door under my umbrella, the commercial SATCOM office, the Space Domain Awareness Marketplace, the partnership with AFRL and SpaceWorks. And also I'm excited to execute the Commercial Augmentation Space Reserve Task Force under my program. Many of you have been following CASR. That program really kicked off when we held an industry day back in February, 2-day industry day out at George Mason, where we brought together industry and government to understand, what the challenges are. How can we incentivize industry to come along on this journey with us? And what CASR will allow us to do is to have a deliberate investment in industry during peacetime so that we can invest and get those capabilities out to the warfighter to understand how to utilize those. So if in the event of a crisis or conflict, they'll be able to capitalize on those capabilities and also through CASR have the ability to surge those capabilities as well. So I'm happy to say that that task force has been doing great. We have coalesced under 5 cornerstones for the task force. Those are contracting, financing, and programming, policy and legal, architecture, operations, and also having a group of industry experts, because like I said, this is going to be a partnership with industry. And the goal out of that is to build up a framework with commercial SATCOM as with the exemplar, and have that staffed through the SECAF, hopefully by the end of the summer. But my charge to industry is that we will not have that staffing happen before we come back and revisit with industry, which we're looking to do at some point this summer. So that's my charge going forward. And what CASR is, it's a prime example of adopting a new mindset that allows us to leverage commercial partnership to get after the threat and increase that unity of effort. So in closing, before we get to any questions that Chris has, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody. Thank you for what you do every day. Thank you for your support and also your partnership and your patriotism for this country. You all have the right mindset that we have a sense of urgency to get after our pacing threat. And in order to do that, we have to get those capabilities out there to the warfighter as quickly, expeditiously as possible, while also making sure that they align to the SECAF's OIs, the CSO's LOEs, the 9 tenets that the Honorable Calvelli has, as well as the exploit, buy, build mantra that we have here at Space Systems Command. And with that said, Chris, I'll turn it back over to you, and I look forward to hearing your questions.
Well, thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate it. That's a great summary of where you are and some of the key programs and activities you have underway. We will, again, encourage our audience to ask questions. So please use the Q&A button at the bottom. A couple of questions have already come in. I'll start the questioning here. Can you talk a little bit about, your interactions with other parts of the Space Force and other DoD and IC organizations, for example, Space Command or others, and how, you know, these are entities that have obvious equities, interests in seeing effective leveraging of commercial. Are there appropriate requirements that they are levying on you? Is this more of a dialogue on here's what we could deliver within a certain time frame, or how would you characterize the discussion with others across the DoD, especially in the user community at Space Command?
So as I mentioned earlier, this is not, commercial is a team effort. And the goal out of the Commercial Space Office, and it's a like-minded goal out of the entire agency, is to partner together, and it's to get quick capability out there without much duplication of effort. So I'm proud to say that the Commercial Space Office is a partner with US Space Command. We are integrated into their Commercial Integration Working Group. In fact, I just had a good dialogue this week alone with Colonel Jeff Bogar and Vic Vigliotti to really see how I can feed into some of their issue papers on commercial goals that they have. And it's a recurring dialogue, and it's very refreshing to hear from our combatant command. We have an extremely great partnership with the NRO and the NGA. In fact, just this year alone, we will join their group in putting out space domain awareness and space situational awareness. We're going to integrate our efforts into their joint constellation report. So this will be the first time that the Space Force is integrated into that. And we look forward to putting other mission areas into that as well. But, you know, really going forward, I also want to understand the commercial contracts that they have. My goal here out of the Commercial Space Office is not to recreate the wheel. I have a demand signal from the user community, as well as through our PEOs and the force designs that are being produced by SWAC, and the enterprise roadmaps being produced by the Space Systems Integration Office, where they are really outlining where we need to go with commercial and the capability that's going to help build out that architecture. So before I start a new contract, I'm going out to our partners and understanding and really taking an inventory of what companies they have on contract, as well as the different mission areas. And in order to get those capabilities out there fast, it could be as easy as a very quick MIPR over to them to really leverage those contracts. In fact, we're working together with Space Force headquarters to get quick capability out to the combatant command. So in fact, we just had a great dialogue chaired by General Saltzman, and we're going to be moving fast on that. And the appropriate word is fast, interagency, with also the ability to innovate. One thing I will mention, as we're looking at integrating commercial services, through the Commercial Space Office, we actually have a very robust framework as we look to bring on commercial services. And it's really a four-step process of monitor, implement, integrate, and assess. And what we're doing during the monitoring process is understanding what the national security space needs are. And we take that through our dialogue with interagency, as well as the combatant commands and those source data that I was talking about through SWAC and SSIO and our program executive officers. But also, we are doing a great deal of analytics within the industry. How mature are these mission areas? Which companies have more mature areas? Which areas are less mature that we should be looking at to invest more dollars in? You know, and that's the great thing about having SpaceWorks under my umbrella is really having an avenue to do that innovation, to mature those areas and those companies, and coming up with a great plan going forward. But also moving on to implement. What is the most flexible, fast contract that we can develop, or that is out there, that we can get that quick capability out there while also having room to innovate? Because what we've learned through the commercial industry, and it's amazing, is the innovation. And I don't want to just hone in on one capability. I want to get after the threat, and I want to stay proactive at that. So that's where we're also going to come back to at the last step, but understanding where we can innovate. And then we need to integrate. We need to make sure that this commercial capability becomes part of the acumen of the warfighter. And we're doing some of that also by expanding capabilities through the JTFSD Commercial Ops Center. Right now, very focused on a key mission area for space domain awareness, but we are also looking at how we can expand that into other mission areas like attack ISR to get those capabilities out there. And the amazing part about that ops center is that this is actual commercial capability being put in the hands of operators today to look at and get after problems, but also it's getting it in the hands of our allies. So we're clicking a lot of boxes with this, and also looking at it as a nice proving ground going forward. And then also, I can't express this enough, we need to be looking at cyber security. We need to be looking at data integrity as well. And I've been meeting with a lot of great companies out there that have great capabilities that, if I were to look at it as an analogy, they have a virtual cheesecloth, if you will. As we fuse many different avenues of data together, they are looking at what pieces of data may have been affected, and then they even are able to kind of do a forensics look on where it got affected. So really exciting stuff, but our leaders are very keen on cybersecurity and data integrity. The last thing I want to mention is the assess part. How are the capabilities being utilized today? What can we do differently? What does the warfighter need? So we have that constant feedback loop that we can feed into the companies and get that innovation out there quickly. The last thing I'd also like to mention from the assess part is, and the business analytics, is understanding ownership of the companies. What companies are out there that could have some potential nefarious data or nefarious ownership? So we are looking into that as well before we start investing in any of these companies. So in a nutshell, very robust framework, but at the end of the day, this cannot be done without the partnerships that we have with the IC community to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts too much, but also utilizing the avenues that we have with each other.
Right, thank you very much. A question from the audience is as follows. SSC has a good track record of buying products, data, and components, but there may be greater value seen today in fully managed services, the managed services model. How do you see greater adoption of managed services to support space operations? And are there particular mission areas where you think managed services is more applicable than others?
I do. So I'm very high on managed services. From a Space Force standpoint, we need to better utilize our operators going forward. We want to stay a small service, and what a managed service allows you to do is number one, not have the sustainment tail, if you will. So you will have that tail to always do that innovation, but also having the service do the operation of the capability. And what the benefit of that is that now we can really start reallocating our operators to be going after more warfighting capabilities. I kind of bucket mission areas into three different ways. So we talked a little bit earlier about what is inherently government, and the definition that I use for inherently government is those critical capabilities that have a no-fail mission tagline to it. These are our missions that we need to focus on building in-house because the risk calculus of it, we can't do without this. Some examples of that are strategic missile warning, strategic SATCOM that require a hardening capability, and also we will always have a PNT constellation, you know, with our secure waveforms. These have been deemed no-fail missions that we will build in-house. Now, that being said, our PEOs are also looking down to the component level of where we can go commercial. So we will build it, but you know, we're looking for every opportunity to bring on commercial. But then we also, as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to migrate more towards a hybrid architecture where you're going to have a DoD and a commercial component to that. And we're doing a lot of that with, you know, commercial SATCOM right now, where we have a government SATCOM, but also I mentioned earlier the incredible work that is being done by Claire Hopper and her team out at Fort Meade, where we're heavily invested in that commercial SATCOM. But other areas that I'm looking to get more commercial involvement in, alternate PNT. I think that commercial can easily provide a resilient alternate PNT capability out there, and we need that PNT capability going forward because it is valuable to the warfighter, and it's really valuable in everything that we do from a mission capability standpoint. And I'll just even put a plug in there. We are actually planning on having an alternate PNT industry day in early June. I believe the dates are the 7th and 8th of June, where we're going to have it in Chantilly, where we want to hear from industry. What are the different ways that we can, you know, integrate a capability like that so that we can build in that resiliency going forward? Other areas are resilient missile warning, missile track capability that we're putting in MEO. There are avenues that we can get commercial more involved in that going forward. The missile warning, missile track mission area is very important to us as a warfighter, and commercial can easily play a role in that. But then we have other areas that can go, you know, more towards commercial because of the capabilities that are out there. We mentioned launch. We buy commercial launch services, and we are going to definitely need commercial more involved as we start going more towards the tactically responsive space model. And we are going to need a rapid commercial launch capability for some of our payloads to have that on the ready. And we're going through those motions right now through the program being led by Colonel Eric Stockham. Weather. I am very high on commercial being able to build our weather constellation. We will have a weather industry day this year. Don't know the date yet, but it's going to be forthcoming. And I have been having a lot of conversations going forward as far as where we can go with weather. But at that same time, that's just a brief synopsis. But what my office is doing is constantly evaluating where we can go with commercial. And I always look forward to meeting with companies, understanding their capabilities going forward. I will definitely put a plug in there for the Space Systems Command front door. We will be unveiling a new website in early June that I'm excited about. That's going to help really get after responsiveness to industry. I've heard everybody out there. Sometimes responsiveness is not as fast as possible. This website's going to get after that. So this is my plug for that website, and it's going to help us understand where how mature these companies are, how we can best direct them. Is it mature enough that we should be having the conversations with the program executive officers or the respective senior material leaders? Are they brand new and they're just really looking for some educational material? We're going to really start moving towards that model. And then later on, we are going to unveil our community tool. And we're going to make sure that we have that integrated with the other agencies so that we can share information. This is not for the commercial space office to hold on to. This is for us to get involved and integrate together on. Because I'd love to hear from NASA, who met with the same company, to get their feedback, to really learn together and do a lot more info sharing. And that's just really going to help us increase the ability that we can expect from the commercial industry, but it's also going to just bring us together as better partners.
Thank you very much. Very useful information, and we appreciate it. Lieutenant General Gutlein has said, exploit what we have, buy what we can, and only build what we must. Obviously, implementing that vision takes both time and some increased funding. What's your take on when we will sort of really hit our stride, if you will, in this? One thing we hear from member companies and the broader suite of commercial companies is that, yes, there's not insignificant funds being spent on commercial, but it's spotty in areas. You mentioned, for example, the significant amounts that are being spent on launch, almost $2 billion, and then contrast that with $21 million on commercial SDA. Do you anticipate significant increases in the budget for commercial, leveraging commercial space, either out of the Congress or as part of future budget requests?
I would honestly say that I know the conversation is happening right now. Our leadership is very focused on getting more after commercial. The one thing I would say, the funding structure through the PPBE is it's not as conducive as we want to get after capability. Many of you know that funding is sourced to systems and not systems that are getting after a capability, but it's hard to do the flexibility, if you will, to maneuver from a system onto commercial. Our PEOs are doing it at the best that they can right now. I did mention some of the other areas. As commercial is maturing, I expect more to move over towards commercial. My plans going forward, I am really keen on building really good investment strategies through SpaceWorks, because I see that as a key area to take maturity to the next level. Once again, in the meantime, I am heavily leveraging our partners right now. We are having the conversations. We're building in the flexible. Flexible contracts. I do see going forward that, and I'm trying to set up different mechanisms to start having a dedicated commercial line. A dedicated commercial line is going to take some of the burden off of the PEOs and really help us focus on those commercial capabilities. I think there's an enthusiasm in industry. I've been reading a lot of the transcripts of the various hearings and posture hearings that have been happening, and I think there's a huge appetite for it in Congress. And I can honestly say within our leadership, They know to get after the fight, we do need to start leveraging quick wins, quick capabilities out to the warfighters. And, through even our warfighting integration office here at SSC, we're having those conversations and feeding them back into the mechanism and really understanding where the gaps and the capabilities that can be filled with commercial and our allied partners. But to really start, maneuvering away from a build mentality, we're going to need some of that financial assistance to do that.
Well, I suspect that many on this call, folks who are watching this interview, are undoubtedly whispering in the ears of folks in the Congress to encourage them along those lines. If they haven't, I'm sure they will after this. So
I would say, Chris,
help.
I did have the fortune of watching the playback that Todd Harrison and Mike Tierney did, and I've known Mike for a few years, and he has a very keen intellect when it comes to the budget and stuff. So I agreed with many of the things that he said.
Well, thank you. We have a question from the audience as well that notes that there have been extensive delays, including on the order of years, at the Commercial Satellite Communications Office in getting out and awarding RFPs, which raises, if you want to comment on that in particular, but it raises the broader issue of one of perhaps even the centerpiece of Assistant Secretary Calvelli's approach, which is speed. And so how do we achieve the kind of speed that we talk about, and whether it's in commercial satellite communications or in other areas?
So no, that's a great question. And I, as a career space acquisition officer, I've had the fortune of working on very slow contracting teams, and I've had the fortune of working on very fast contracting teams. Some of the areas that I look for, when you look at getting contracts out there faster, there's a focus element to it and a speed element. Right now, and you brought up the commercial SATCOM office. We have a transition date for the commercial SATCOM office to come. We're migrating away from DISA and DITCO, and we have a strategy by 1 October of 2024 to have a majority of that migration to happen. But there will be some liens on there. The one thing that I did not want to do, and we all agree upon, is there are existing contracts that are being executed right now through DISA and DITCO. We don't want to perturb those existing contracts. Screen just went away. Oh, okay, good. Chris is there. We don't want to perturb those existing contracts, and we didn't want to perturb the existing source selections. So our teams have a great strategy to have that migration going forward. And after that, the other thing I actually want to mention, by that 1 October 2024, we will have our working capital fund established. What that working capital fund is going to allow us to do is to have that revolving door to get after quick capabilities and expand into other different mission areas. So I didn't want to leave the conversation without talking about that. But as we transition away, the contracts will start coming out of the commercial space office. And we have a great PCO named Miss Kamiki Mitchell. And we are going to be doing flexible, fast, contracts where we are going to be able to get the solicitation out there faster, and we are going to be able to get things on contract faster. I'm a big believer in the marketplace mentality, where I can have a group of capabilities in the same marketplace where we could throw out requirements and have competition within those marketplaces and get contracts awarded quickly. So we are working on that strategy right now, but totally understand and agree that in order to really make this happen, and I firmly agree with Honorable Calvelli's mindset that we cannot have 10-year builds anymore. We have to have quick capabilities with room for innovation. And I know my contracting team is excited and well charged to take that on.
Thank you. We have a question from Joe Dodd, our chairman of our board. It always is a good idea for me to ask Joe's questions, job security and all that. Joe asks, what's the status of early discussions you may be having with CSPO at the NRO, with NGA and with the IC Space Executives commercial related efforts? And tell us a little bit about your Chantilly office. How's the relationship going with others, and especially in the IC?
So first, Joe, thank you for the question, and also thank you for the partnership that I've had with you and Steve Jakes as we've been going forward on this journey. We are very well integrated right now with the IC community and the NGA. We are, in fact, I started in this office less than a month ago. We're starting monthly, or actually more frequent conversations going forward. I mentioned the Joint Constellation report. That is really going to help us come together as a community now to have that first Space Force integrated piece into that. Now the Space Force capabilities will be part of that Constellation report. So really that brings us further together as a community. Previously, we have a good inventory of existing contracts that we plan to leverage when appropriate, and that's going to also help us get capability out there faster. So the conversation's ongoing. I also want to make a point to definitely talk about NASA. NASA's been doing a great job with commercial. And we've been having those conversations on how we can best leverage those commercial capabilities and entities as well. The second part of your question, the commercial collaboration center. So we are excited about that. That is actually going to be unveiled on the 6th of June, and that's going to be out there in a workplace in Chantilly. And it's important to have that collaboration center. We have always said that the Commercial Services Office, now the Commercial Space Office, is headquartered out in Chantilly. And that was by design. That is a central point so that we can be close to our partners in the intelligence community, close to NASA, close to the Space Development Agency, to have that place where we could all come together, collaborate on strategies going forward. And I know a lot of people have heard General Gutlein talk about the Program Integration Council, which has membership over all of the acquisition entities across the Space Force, as well as the NRO and the other field commands, as well as AFRL and the International Affairs Office. But what I'd like to do is have a commercial pick, if you will, to have those conversations in that collaboration center to really see where the requirements are as we've been having these conversations, and in essence really go after who is best suited to go after some of those requirements, and to have those conversations on best contracts to go forward. My charge go in the next few months, I need to get out and increase my dialogue with the combatant commands. I've been talking a lot with the U.S. Space Command, but I do need to get out there, to really have those conversations with a General Mastelier who is at the edge, and see especially what commercial capabilities that can we do beyond what we're already doing in the JCO. So there are, especially from a TAC ISR standpoint, there are a lot of amazing platforms out there that can integrate multiple sources of data and really come up with a great solution set going forward. These are the types of things that I really want to start maturing and getting that out there to the warfighter, because it is on them to really have these capabilities at their fingertips. And also, as we build out the CASR framework and start looking at different mission areas, I'm excited to have those operational communities on my team, because we really need to start pulling the operational thread of how we would surge a commercial capability in the time of a crisis. And I'm excited to have a very robust team to, when it's time to talk to industry again, and to be briefing through leadership, to really show that, you know, we're looking at this from all different lenses, not just from an acquisition lens, but also ensuring the right policy is there, the legal team is there on board, as well as architecture, because it's important to know that we need to buy commercial to get after the need of the warfighter. And and I've got membership from the SWAC on this team to do just that, but also that operational vignette to ensure that the commercial capability will be used in peacetime and be able to be effective during crisis or conflict.
Thank you very much. Earlier in your comments, you talked about an emphasis on cybersecurity and data integrity. Can you expand on that a little bit? Is this a case where if a company has just a really stellar capability, but may not be as robust on the cybersecurity side, is this a case where you would say, sorry, not good enough, or you might invest in that company, provide funding for them to bolster their cybersecurity or data integrity, et cetera? What's the model for how you determine how much is enough cybersecurity, minimum standards and the like? And secondly, if a company has eye-watering capabilities that you really need and the warfighter needs, but it may not be the most robust from a cyber standpoint, would you think of investing resources in that company to bring it up to a reasonable level?
So couple of things to unpack from that. So from a cybersecurity standpoint, cybersecurity is a must. It is on us in the government to really put out what those requirements are. I am happy to say that through the Commercial SATCOM office, we have put together what we call IA Pre. And really, that is it's a framework or a requirement for cybersecurity and that we expect or need when we go on contract with a company. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much to have the requirement for cybersecurity or integrity, but we need to be able to voice that to industry and say, this is what we expect. And we're actually going to be meeting with members of DoD CIO, Ms. Hopper and I, and they would actually like to understand what IA Pre is and possibly use that as a benchmark going forward. So, through the Commercial Space Office and the Commercial SATCOM office, we're trying to lead the way on that and be the best voice for to industry to put those requirements out there. Now, if they are not as robust in that, we have mechanisms to do investment, and that's where a SpaceWorks comes in, and those SBIRS programs to invest in the company and bring them up to a certain standard. Mm-hmm. We do that right now in the through the SpaceWorks program is to really mature a technology and bring along a company that we can easily see transitioning and being part of our architecture. Obviously, we do have some requirements. We are looking to leverage commercial where we can. There are certain areas that we are going to have to bring commercial up to a certain standard, because there will be a lot of interplay between our inherently government assets and those commercial entities. So that we do have those mechanisms to do those investments to bring those companies up. So what I ask industry to do, when we do meet, come through the front door, possibly make those known and say, we understand your cyber requirements. Here's possibly where we're at. Here's our plan going forward. Here's some of our needs. Sometimes industry doesn't quite understand why we have the certain cyber requirements or what some of them mean. And that's just on us to do that education and, coming through the front door where we can have that dialogue and really understand what your needs are. That was sort of the real purpose of standing up the SSC front door, to help navigate industry, especially the very young companies, through what I'll always call the labyrinth, if you will, so they can understand our problems. And at that same time, we can have those reverse components and have that one-on-one dialogue.
Thank you. We have time for, I think, a couple more questions, and one common theme, as you might expect, that's coming in through the chat is, tell us a little more about what you see as some of the key near-term opportunities, solicitations you may be putting out, or other near-term opportunities, and where should folks go for those? Is there a standard location? Should they go through front door? Should they go through, just wait for things to show up on sam.gov? Or what's your recommendation in terms of making sure companies are aware of these great opportunities that are presenting themselves? And lastly, what can we as NSSA or others do to make sure that the word gets out on that?
So couple of things there. So near-term solicitations, those will come out in a couple of different ways. Obviously, you'll have your formal path through sam.gov, and those are more tied to requests for proposal.
Mm-hmm.
What we plan to do through the new SSC front door is to also be a voice for some of those as well. For competition's sake, you will have sam.gov, but we hope to actually provide some feedback on those as well, to, treating the front door and that new website that's going to be unveiled as that central point where people can go to, not just for Space Systems Command, but we'd also like to gather the data for other agencies going forward. When we have an industry day, I hope the companies that are attending and contributing to that rich dialogue are understanding that these are mission areas that we look to get after, especially even from in many areas from a commercial standpoint. I see ways that we can expand our capabilities in space domain awareness, which is a high priority for U.S. Space Command and General Dickinson, as well as other remote sensing areas. I think there are ways to build a resiliency from a MTI standpoint. We mentioned weather. Going forward. So I look at that as a huge growth area. Space data transport capabilities are also ways that we need to start looking at ways that commercial can help with that capability, whether it be through space segments or optics, or there are even some technologies out there for helping out with data paths. The last one that I would mention is, as I build out the CASR framework, General Gutlein has mentioned he would like to go, schedule-wise in IOC in 2026. So the framework will be a strategy, but we are looking to put contracts behind that as well. Once again, all of the commercial that we will be going towards will have a source to it, whether it be fulfilling force designs or warfighter requirements. But I look at CASR as a great area to do deliberate investment in commercial and surge. And I can't thank industry enough for the support and just the enthusiasm in this. It was very humbling to see just how enthusiastic industry was during that 2 day forum. And the words that I can come away with are patriotic, enthusiastic, and innovative. And it is really all about the partnership there. Obviously you have the National Production Act on certain things, but my goal is to have a very good partnership where we're incentivizing industry. And the one thing that I would mention, and I have a feeling this will be part of our incentive plan, is threat sharing. It is important for industry to understand what the threat is doing. And this will help them understand where the government is going, where the threat is going, but it's also going to help inform their investments going forward. So to have industry along on that ride with us, we need to do more threat sharing, as well as start maturing what I'd like to call a classified incubator. And we're looking forward to figuring out a way to help industry get clearances faster in some respect. This is very new, and we have a couple different ways of doing this, but we have got to have industry available to have these conversations. So this is another thing and a strategy that I'm looking to mature within our commercial space office.
Well, thank you. And just a couple of things to follow up on that. One is along the lines of helping inform industry of emerging foreign space and counter space threats. NSSA is having first annual space and counter space threats in July. We'll have experts from across the IC at that event at NGA Conference Center at the TSSITK no foreign level. So we're very big on that. We totally agree with you. And also, as I think many who are watching know, the good folks at the National Space Intelligence Center have used NSSA to get their monthly circuit briefs out to industry, and those are very well attended events. So we're very proud to host those activities as well. So completely agree. We're big fans of that, and we view ourselves as an important mechanism for that. So put us in, Coach. And last quick thing is, you mentioned some of the industry days and others. Put us in for that as well. We're happy to assist you. This is an incredibly important mission area, broad mission area, and very much tied to how whether to what extent we'll succeed in future combat. So this is a very important topic, and any way we can assist with that process, we'd be more than happy to do so, sir.
Yeah, so Chris, I will have to put a plug in there because we actually have an industry day next week. Artificial intelligence and machine learning. We're going to be having that up at Palo Alto.
Right.
And we're very gracious for to have that dialogue. I look at artificial intelligence and machine learning as a way to really anticipate and understand what the threat is doing and really speed up our decision-making ability. But I'd be happy to have as much industry there as possible. And if you are needing any instructions on how to register for that, You can reach out to myself or the SSC Front Door through SSC Front Door at spaceforce.mil, and we will get that out to you ahead of time, as well as any information on our Collaboration Center opening or our Alt PNT Industry Day in June. But we definitely need industry there for those dialogues. And thank you very much for the offer through NSSA to get those words out.
Happy to do it. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but I think there's unanimity of view here that the mission you have is incredibly important. And a lot of folks that want to help you with that, patriotic reasons, want to help and believe they can support you in the mission. And so we're happy to host you today, and we wish you the best of luck. And my hope is we'll be able to be back to you shortly.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
And everyone else have a great day, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And we certainly appreciate our sponsor, Viasat. So thank you again for your time, and everyone have a great day.